To Gorgon. May cosmic winds shepherd her to the nearest star.
The 11-month gap between the launch of The Outer Worlds and its first DLC feels a little odd, because that's just long enough for me to have forgotten almost everything about how Obsidian's sci-fi RPG works. But Peril on Gorgon is a fairly big chunk of side adventure that took me about 8 hours to play through, making it well worth coming back and reacquainting myself for. It's not terrifically ambitious as far as gameplay goes, but it falls squarely into the more of a good thing category.
I have received a transmission from Roseway, from a Dr. Shaw. Beginning playback now.
What? Oh, is this on?
Within the first hour or so, you're sensationally presented with a mystery clutched in the hand of a severed human arm.
Yeah, can we talk about the arm? I want to take bets on how the guy lost it.
And soon after, the story drops a shocking revelation about Spacer's Choice and its drug-pushing pharmaceutical research operation, which Firefly fans might be less surprised about. That quest takes place mostly on the mountainous industrial asteroid base of Gorgon, but it also sends you on quests to other new locations around the Hyperion system that keep it from feeling one-note. The story isn't really a mystery in the strictest sense. It's more like an extended series of quests to find the journal of the facility's lead scientist, at which point the shadowy figure who dogs you the whole way through reveals themselves without any actual sleuthing on your part. But overall, it's a decent story with a handful of intriguing characters, starting with the enigmatic heiress Mina Ambrose, who hires you for this job, and it's dressed up in some fun private eye trappings.
How exciting! You make it sound like something out of a crime drama.
I can't say I was floored by the main reveal, but there is a clever spin on it that raised my eyebrows and enhanced the delivery to make it a little more memorable. And in the end, you get to make one of Obsidian's trademark morally gray decisions, though naturally it doesn't have an impact on the main story.
Hey, do whatever you like. Life's short and we're all dying anyway.
Well, I say that it's a fun story, and it's mostly delivered with the same dark, satirical tone as the rest of The Outer Worlds. But your companion characters treat the war crime level atrocities you uncover with the seriousness they deserve. That doesn't always mesh well with the grim comedy of the rest of the story, but it does lend a fair amount of gravity when, for example, you decide whether or not your character is the type who would execute a Nazi-level monster on sight.
I don't think this fellow's entirely in his right mind.
I played largely with Parvati and Nyoka at my side, and if they're any indication, each companion has a good amount of spontaneous commentary with full voice acting. That makes Peril on Gorgon feel every bit up to the level of the main game in terms of fully voiced, well-acted characters. That said, there's also quite a bit of reading to do. Too much sometimes. Most of these entries are pretty entertaining tales of corporate malfeasance, but if you want the full story, it can get to be a lot to get through all at once. Exploration is rewarding thanks to a lot of attention to detail and environmental storytelling. In keeping with Gorgon's role as a pharmaceutical research lab, the sheer amount of drugs you come across is astonishing. There are piles of syringes everywhere. I was a little disappointed that, given the drug lab setting, I was never pushed into a situation where I felt tempted to use a drug with negative side effects myself. Nothing has really added to The Outer Worlds' adequate combat. You'll fight marauders, psychotic test subjects who are basically identical to marauders, space pirates who are basically identical to marauders, robots, and of course, primals. Peril on Gorgon is very much more of the same in this department, though I did find a couple of unique weapons. It took me about 8 hours to complete the main missions and the 2 big side quest chains, which are mostly just a series of amusing but simple fetch quests. It's a decent amount of content to come back to The Outer Worlds for, and if you're playing for the first time, it extends the length of a full playthrough to around 40 hours. That fleshes out this relatively lean RPG quite a bit.
You watch out for marauders, Mance, and Charles from accounting, and you'll probably be fine.
The Outer Worlds Peril on Gorgon DLC is mechanically unambitious in that it doesn't introduce any new ideas to change up gameplay, but it does take the crew of the Unreliable to several new locations around the Hyperion system as it unveils a fairly lengthy and entertaining detective story.
Sometimes it's better to know the truth and deal with it.
For more on Peril on Gorgon, check out the first minutes of gameplay and watch us explore a research facility. And if you missed it, you should watch our original review of The Outer Worlds. And for everything else, stick with IGN.